The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast. For beer, the sports talk, and a whole lot more. Join host Brent Radlinskiy as he bellies up to the bar and gets the conversations going that'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering room. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans. So sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get into it. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, for beer, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Today's show, as always, brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great podcasts and other articles and all kinds of good stuff there over at bellyupsports.com. I make sure when you're going around this holiday season, have us in your ears. Subscribe to wherever it is you listen to your podcast, and like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff over at the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast YouTube account. But anyways, as we talk about the Christmas season rolling in here, it used to be a thing where the World Junior Tournament was the biggest thing going. It was easy Christmas shopping. It was easy everything. It was a money-making machine for Canada and for TSN and for Hockey Canada, sorry. And so it went. You knew who the players were. You knew what the chances were for Canada playing. You knew whether they're going to win, lose, draw, whatever it's going to be. The hype machine was huge. It was big, no matter what. And I just learned today, I know we talked about it a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but I just learned today, and this might be just, well, we'll get to that in a second. I just learned today the tournament's being played in Minnesota this year. I had no idea that it was in North America. And that's scary, being that I'm a sports guy, a hockey guy, and a World Junior guy. It used to be must-see TV around the holiday season. It was on every TV, no matter what. The World Juniors was a staple in every Canadian home, every Canadian bar. There didn't matter what time of day the games were on, and you knew who the players were, and you were excited about what was going to occur and how it was all going to come down. And you knew what these guys were. The only player that I have any idea that is playing in this tournament is Gavin McKenna out of Penn State, because he played just down the road here in Medicine Hat last year, but decided to go to different pastures. And it was a smart move for McKenna. But for years and years and years, it was just it was just what you did, how you watched the World Juniors. It was the hockey world. It was just what it was. The World Juniors didn't get worse. The hockey world just changed everything. And for years, Canadians tuned in expecting gold or bust. That expectation created drama. Parity is real now. Most countries develop the elite talent, and Canada isn't overwhelmingly dominant. In fact, the last 2 years, the United States has won the championship. And Canada last year, I think they lost out in the quarterfinal to Czechia or Slovakia. It doesn't matter who, but it was somebody that you wouldn't think that they would lose to. It's good for hockey globally, but it take away from the emotional certainty, I guess, Canadian fans are addicted to and I guess entitled to. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the problem, that we've become such an entitled nation when it comes to the game of hockey, that when somebody beats us, we take our nets and we go home. And so we don't tune in. So maybe that's part of the problem why the interest level isn't as high as it used to be. But another thing maybe is it's the oversaturation of hockey, and it's the oversaturation of sports. I mean, these kids are so used to they're so used to the camera now. It's not new to them anymore. You go back how many years? And it was before Carlo Coliacco played in the National Hockey League. He was a star, and his father was a star on TV in the World Juniors. And all of a sudden, these guys had this media exposure that they never had before. But now media exposure is so high, and I'm just as guilty for it, because I got this thing going on, and I'm always on, I'm on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But so the overexposure, maybe it gets lost in the limelight. Every game is on. Every game is psychoanalyzed in the National Hockey League. Every game has 14 different podcasts, and every game has 14 different breakdowns of how it goes. So maybe it just gets lost. It gets lost in the shuffle, and it doesn't matter until the tournament's on. Maybe it's the oversaturation of these players at a younger age. You got the Helinka Cup, you got the U17, the U8, and I don't understand. If you're U17, it shouldn't. I still don't understand that. I should probably do a deeper dive and ask people. I know if you're U17, you're under the age of 17. I understand that, But how there's that many different levels, okay, but that's another show for another day. But maybe it's the oversaturation of these tournaments throughout the spring and summer that they're always just on. You don't even know what it's about. You don't care. And then they had a few weeks ago, they had this this whatever it was, All-Star Showcase, whatever it was called, CHL versus the United States, and they trying to boat that up for a free World Junior thing, and nobody cared. And it was here in Lethbridge, and Deanne asked if I wanted to go. I was like, I could care less. I don't want to go. I didn't put it on TV. So maybe it's the oversaturation of these events that just people are tuned out. Maybe they're just done with it. Maybe it has something to do with that World Junior scandal that just got wrapped up this year, that sexual assault scandal and everything else. Maybe it has something to do with that. Maybe people their distrust with Hockey Canada in Canada, or right across the country. Maybe people have just had enough. I know in the backgrounds of things, people are kind of fed up with Hockey Canada and how they do things. So maybe people are like, you know what, I'm not going to watch that. But I don't believe that. Like, I don't believe that that's the problem. Because and then people, Canada not winning. Well, when Canada is playing, people tend to watch a little bit, but it just doesn't have the same hype it used to. Is it because there's such a disconnect between the have and have-nots in the world? Is it because there's back when I was a kid, when it was a huge event, 86, I think it was, the Pia Stanley Punch-Out, and the guys were relatable. They weren't a whole bunch older than me. And so that's when I first started falling in love with this tournament. And then in 1990, when John Slaney scored the goal, I was only a couple of years younger. I was the same age as those guys. So I was very invested in it. But then my later years, when I was living in BC, and it was always like you'd go to the bar and you'd watch the game, and there'd be 200 people packed into a place cheering on these high school kids and teenagers. And that doesn't seem to happen anymore for some reason. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't think it's just because Canada hasn't been overly successful over the years. It's not a guaranteed win, because what fun is that? It was there was a lot of great tournaments over the years that Canada was winning, and it was never a guarantee. Like at the Eberle goal in 2009, I think it was, or 2008, it doesn't much matter. The 2009 Tavares game on New Year's Eve against the U.S. that he scored. There's a funny story behind that one that I shouldn't tell anymore. But and then there's many different even the heartbreak games. The Marc-Andre Fleury banking it off of Sullivan, I think, and putting it in his own net, and Canada losing. But you still watch, and you still watch. You remember the Jonathan Toews. How many shootout goals did he score? 3 or 4 goals that he was on his own. That 2005 team that Canada just dominated down in North Dakota. So there was definite hype back then, and that hype is completely gone. And I maybe it's just me, maybe it's my old age, and maybe I'm just a grumpy guy. Get off my lawn. But like I was saying earlier, you don't have kids wearing Canada jerseys all over the place. You don't have the automatic Christmas hat purchase or toque or whatever it might be. That's just not a thing anymore. It's just not. And that used to be an automatic for my nephew Jim, when I would get, for every Christmas, no matter what. It was a lot of times they were way too big when he was a young little whippersnapper. But he would get a Team Canada jersey, a toque, a hat, and here you go. There it is. Simple. Now it's just not that way anymore. I do it too. I don't remember the last time I bought a jersey. I think because we don't want too many, but it used to be an automatic. But now it's just lost its luster, and I don't know what I don't know why it's that way. There's many ideas that I have as why it got that way. Too many Aiden, Jadens, Bradens, and the like that just no personality. At its highest level, hockey's still a great game. At its highest level, it's not at its mid level. It's pretty mid, but at its highest level, it's still fantastic. And like it was shown with the Four Nations face-off back in last February, when it's us versus them and national pride is at stake, it's still a thing. And people get excited about that. Last year it did help that the Orange Menace was flapping his gums. I'm talking about Trump, that he was flapping his gums about overtaking Canada and everything else. So that didn't hurt that tournament. And, when Canada won that one, like I said earlier, like when it first happened, when I was at Boston Pizza watching that game, it was more of a sense of relief that Canada won, not a sense of joy. I was happy. I was happier than hell, but it was like, oh, Christ, thank you. But with the World Juniors, because Canada isn't guaranteed, it'd be a lot more fun if they did win one. If they come out of nowhere this year, because like I said, I don't know anything about this team. I don't know anything about these kids. Is it a simple thing that we don't know about these kids because it's an oversaturation of the market, and maybe my algorithms don't come up on Twitter, X, Instagram, where it might be. I listen to Overdrive on a daily basis, and they're on TSN. They don't talk about it. They talk about the Leafs. They talk about the NFL, or is it just too early? And not having the hockey news anymore, that's a big thing. You used to pick up the hockey news on a weekly basis and get delivered to your door. And you'd read all about the up and comers and everything else, and you knew all about them. Is it because the junior hockey's not really shown on terrestrial TV, I guess it's called, where you got to subscribe to this and you got to subscribe to that, so you don't know these kids? TSN and Sportsnet used to play all the games. Now you got to have an app and you got to go here, and I'm just not doing that. I'm just not, and it's bad because like the baseball team that I'm a part of, we're on Flow Sports, and I should be promoting that, but like for me, I'm just not doing it. I'm not that invested in it to go hunting for things. I want to trip onto it and I'll watch it, but to constantly having to be looking and searching, maybe that's the problem. Why you don't hear about it, or you don't know about these kids, or you just don't. But it's odd because there's so many more ways of communicating now, so there's actually less. If you think about it, there's less ways. Like people are communicating less and seeing things less. It just doesn't make sense. Like, is it an oversaturation around Christmas time? You got the outdoor games, you got global this, and the Olympics are coming up, and you're talking about that. So maybe it's just getting lost in lost in its luster. Or are different networks just staying away from Hockey Canada because of the scandal? And people and fans, they just like, you know what, we may well just stay away from that because of the baggage. Lots of fans find it harder to cheer for Team Canada, the World Junior thing, because of what happened with the way Hockey Canada handled that and different scandals along the way. Like, and it's like people don't connect like the that Four Nations face off or the Olympic thing with Hockey Canada. They those are professionals, so they don't connect the dots that way. And I agree. But the World Juniors used to be a appointment viewing. You sat down, you watched it, you felt it. Now it's so, I don't know. It just the attraction is fractured for some reason. It's a tournament that used to be built on full game emotion and everything else in a country. It's almost gotten too commercialized, and I think part of the issue too was for a lot of years Canada decided they host a tournament every year. And I know there was a pandemic and all that and stuff, and I hate to talk about that tobacco, but like for a lot of years, because it was over in say it was in Germany or Sweden or Finland or even in Russia. You would get up first thing in the morning when it was on and you'd watch it. But then it became so, I don't want to, I'll use the word, it became so commercialized that it was in Canada every year. And yeah, it was great for a New Year's Eve game, 7:00 New Year's Eve, you're hoisting them back, you're getting ready for the ball to drop, so you watch the game first, right? Some of the greatest moments in Canadian hockey history happened on New Year's Eve. But I think it's every year. It was every year. So maybe it just became a little bit oversaturation on the Canadian market, where it was held in Canada every year or every other year. Yeah, the crowds are bigger, obviously. Or maybe it's just we're sore losers. But you go back to that 1990 team and that John Slaney scored the big goal against Russia in Saskatoon, and the sense of Canadian pride and everything else, and it was great. The Piastani punch out in '86. You talk about the drive for five, and Nat Dominicali is swearing on TV with Pierre Maguire. But now it's just so. But there was all. Maybe I just figured it out. There was such a every man or every kid about those teams, and there was an every. I could make that team, or I could be part of that, even though you couldn't. But there was also, you always knew a kid, and you always had a kid playing from your hometown or from a town just across the way, and there was always the the guy maybe didn't have his parents have a bunch of money, and a small town kid did good. And then the story became the story of certain kids became bigger than the game itself. And now, and whether this is right or wrong, it's my opinion, it's my show, so I can say whatever I want. I hope if I'm wrong, somebody tells me, or if I'm right, somebody tells me. But is it as simple as these kids are so out of touch with reality? And the hockey community at its highest level now is so out of touch with the communities that they used to play in. Remember, these tournaments used to be played in small centers. When it was in Alberta, they would play not only in the Centrium in, I don't know what it's called now, PV Mart places, I think in Red Deer, but it used to be the Centrium, and then they would play the bigger games in Centrium only sat 5,000 or whatever it was. Then they'd play the Canada Russia game would be in Edmonton, and then the Canada, say, Czechoslovakia game would be in Toronto. But the most of the games were played in smaller centers. Now it's become so corporate and so big that it's lost its luster and it's lost its touch with the Canadian public, because there's more of us than there are of them. I know they pay for the advertising and everything, but there's more of us, and maybe the not just the players are out of touch, but Hockey Canada's out of touch and TSN's out of touch. They lost the every man can do it. They lost the little engine that could. They lost the working man's hero approach to this tournament. That's what it was. There were a bunch of kids that you fell in love with for 2 weeks. You didn't know who they were, but you got to know them on night 1 or 2. I remember Jeff Wojciechowski. He was like, we would used to say Wojciechowski because he played in Red Deer, and little Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, when he was a kid, he'd have his Team Canada jersey on that was way too big with his arms in the air, yelling Wojciechowski. And you barely knew and then you got to know who these guys were. You got to know who these players were. Now, I couldn't tell you who we even played last year. I think I watched all the games, but then they didn't start off so good, and they lose to Slovakia, I think, in a shootout, and so you kind of then they're out in the quarterfinals, and you're done. You're not invested because it happens so quick, and then it's done. But it even though Canada's been dominated by the U.S. the last couple of years, it should still be okay. Let's watch this and cheer the guys on. And it used to be a sense of, and especially with the World Juniors, there was such a sense of nationality year in, year out, and it just isn't there anymore. And it shouldn't take a Donald Trump, the Orange Menace, threatening our country, and tariffs and on it went with him. But that's what it took, and it brought the country together. Because when Canada's relevant in the game of hockey, it's fun and it's great, and people want to get together. But Hockey Canada's made it with these kids and the parents and everything. We'll get into that again. They've made these kids so not relatable, I guess, and not approachable, and just entitled. And it's the same kid: Braden, Jaden, Aiden, Hayden. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just not a relatable tournament anymore. Maybe it's not for the working man anymore. Maybe it's not for the average Joe. Maybe it's not for the average Canadian. Maybe the demographics have just changed. I don't know if kids watch it. I have no idea. I have no clue if kids watch this thing. I know you don't see kids walking around with hats and toques on anymore, Team Canada, like you used to. And that's fact. That's fact. Like it used to be the automatic. You go to the outdoor rink, everybody's got a Team Canada jersey on or a hat or a toque. And you wanted to be those guys. And you would pretend you were those guys playing on the outdoor rinks, jumping on each other after score a championship goal like they used to. But now it's just not the same event. It's not the same. It's become so corporate and so polished and there it is. It's so corporate and so polished. It's just not the same. I'm not saying I'm not going to watch this year. They start on Boxing Day again. I'll still be out in Vancouver Island at my sister's place. We'll watch the first, for Christmas, we'll watch the game, I'm sure. But it won't be the same because we don't know who these kids are, because they're all the exact same kid. That kid and that kid, they play for the same, they look the same, they're the same pants on, everything's the same. There, you don't have the big bruising shutdown defenseman. What was it, the line last year? They had something about I can't remember what the power play something, and it was stupid. But they beat that thing. They didn't focus on what mattered to Canadians about that tournament. They didn't focus on 3 or 4 individuals or 5 or 6. It was like Bedard was unbelievable that year, but it's always one guy. Focus on the team. Focus on the stories. Make me want to cheer for these kids. Make me want to cheer for the country. I'm not cheering against them by any means. Like, I'm not. But make me want to cheer for them. And it's not part of it anymore. It's not part of the whole, the intangibles anymore. They're a bunch of unapproachable, faceless kids, nameless faces. Or faceless names. I can't remember. But it's the exact same. Like, it just doesn't have the luster. And maybe this year it'll have it. Maybe somebody will grab the bull by the horns and be the John Tavares. Maybe somebody will end up being that 2005 World Junior team where they go 7-0 and beat the living tar out of everybody. That team had like 7 or 8 Hall of Famers, if not more, when it's all said and done. Because Crosby's not retired yet. 20 years later, it's the relationship with Hockey Canada and the average Canadian is fairly broken. It's not the same game anymore. Kids don't have those same aspirations. That they have aspirations and dream, but they're so false and broken. It's just different now. There's resentment across the board, and there's a disdain for Hockey Canada, and they just don't seem to see it, which is weird. And TSN doesn't see it, but sponsorships, Tim Hortons going to be all over everywhere, right? So maybe they don't care. Put it on, then we'll watch it, or will we? Canada loses 1, well, that's to be expected, I guess. But yet the Olympics come around in February, if they go, if that rink ever gets done. What a wreck that is. It's odd. Like, the whole thing is just really, really strange how it's all turned. And maybe they got to go back to the drawing board or quit trying to reinvent the wheel. Just give us some good Canadian stories about some good Canadian kids that, or are there just no good stories? That's why they don't play any. Maybe that's it. It's a whole hodgepodge of problems. I don't think it's just about winning. It's about all the stuff that our nation's about, and that how divided we are as people. I guess maybe it's more of a political thing than a sports thing. Maybe people just had it, and they don't care, and times are tough, and people just don't want to can't be bothered. There's other things to watch. There's 1,000 other things to watch. Hopefully you're watching the 1420 Sports Bar podcast on YouTube, but maybe there's other things to watch that are more entertaining, right? Maybe the game's just not that good. You don't. It's hard to cheer for someone you don't know. You can only cheer for the laundry so much, right? Like, the jersey you're always going to cheer for, but if you don't know who the kids are, who cares? Right? Like, I don't know, maybe it's just that's it. I'll be watching come Boxing Day, like I said, but I hope that it gets a little bit more juice and they start talking about some of these kids more. And it'll be the Gavin McKenna show, guaranteed. Guaranteed that they'll talk about that, but they don't talk about the other kids enough. But these kids are so polished and so unapproachable and so douchey, I guess. Maybe you just don't want to watch them. Maybe that's it. I don't know. It's just, it's sad. It's sad because it was such a great event for so many years. And it was our event. And it was something that Canadians could be proud of. And we watched and we gathered around. And it was part of your Christmas season as a kid, right through adulthood, right up until 10 years ago. And now it's just, it doesn't have the same luster by any means. Anyways, there's the 1420 Sports Bar podcast, segment 1. I got some ideas for some stuff coming up in New Year's and coming up this week. I'll let you know. But here's a little word from our sponsors over there at Righteous Felon Jerky. Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon Jerky. Thanks to our friends over there at Righteous Felon. Go to righteousfelon.com and get yourself some of the best beef jerky in the land for some nice stocking stuffer for the holiday season. Good snacks to sit around and watch a hockey game, watch the World Juniors. I'll be watching. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just I'm not invested in it. And I used to know all the guys before even going in. This before I started this stupid podcast. You know, I knew all the kids, where they played, what junior team they were on, blah blah blah. Now I don't have a clue. And I live in a junior hockey town. So that says a lot. That says a lot. I know I'm much more invested in the Bulls and everything else, but it says a lot when I'm a sports guy in a junior hockey town and I don't know a damn thing about it. That says a lot. And I read the paper. And I'm on Twitter all the time, and so that goes showing there's a lot of work to do on the back end. But anyways, coming up this week, episode number 2 of the Voice of Reason. Deanna and I tomorrow night be live on the Belly Up Media Sports Belly Up Sports YouTube channel. It'll be up there, and it'll be up where your podcast. We do that again tomorrow night, talking about being a team. That's her big term. They got to play like a team. And then Tuesday, I got a Christmas party. Maybe. I'm not sure if I'm going to go yet. Wednesday, Christmas list show. I'm going to have a list of things that I want for my sports teams in the up for 2026 for Santa to leave me on the tree. If you have some things that you would like Santa to leave under your tree, let me know. We'll talk about them on the podcast on Wednesday night. Thursday, the all new 1420 awards, the Hold My Beer Sports Awards, things like What's the Plan Award, What We Watch Award, Everything is Fine Award. You know, everything's fine. Look over here, we're good. The Window is Closed Award for teams that don't have any. They thought that they keep going, and the 1420 Player of the Year. So that is on Thursday night. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it'll do the Saturday, Sunday shows, and then that might be it for the holiday season. We'll see how that goes, or we might do a show, get up to Vancouver Island on next Monday, going to my sister's place, so maybe I'll get my sister Elaine on the Voice of Reason show with Deanne next Monday night. So that's the upcoming week of the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. For Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. Listen, everybody, you know, it's been a lot of fun. This is my safe space. I know we talked about it a little bit last, I think it was a week or two ago, but this is, I like doing this. It's, I enjoy the conversation I have with people about it, and doing more shows is kind of my safe space. I can kind of just talk into air and not really worry about what's on the other side or what people's reaction might be. But I hope you like the show. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and continue to support on YouTube and everywhere else. So make sure you just keep tuning in and talk to people about the show. And it's fun doing this. It's like I said, it gets a little bit tough at times, but this is I can come down here by myself, and then me and Bernie try to go for a walk. He almost got halfway around the block yesterday. There's a monumental occasion here at the 1420 Sports Bar. Bernie, he's an interesting little, he's an interesting dog. He wanted to go, and he's like, you know what, that's far enough, and it was good. So that was a very good thing. So tomorrow night, Voice of Reason on the Belly Up YouTube channel, 7:00 Mountain Standard Time, and it'll be up on the podcast, and then this up on podcast later on. And listen to some old shows, and also a reminder that we have pint glasses for sale, and we have hoodies for sale. Just reach out to me, message me wherever, or email 1420sports@gmail.com, and we'll get you some stuff hand delivered from the greater Lethbridge area. And you can enjoy some ice cold beverage out of a 1420 pint glass this holiday season. Makes for a good stocking stuffer. Get yourself a hoodie and support the show. Might get some hats done too. Anyways, that's it. Lots of shows coming up this week. Lots of fun. The awards will be a lot of fun. And if you have, I'll put some up on social media and all that stuff. But yeah, there it is. The 1420 Sports Bar podcast. For Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. Brought to you by Righteous Felon Jerky and by SeatGeek. Use promo code 1420SEAT at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Have yourselves a great remainder of your weekend, or whatever it is you're watching this show. But remember, everybody, it doesn't matter where you are. It's who you're with. Enjoy your day. And as always, thank you very much for listening to the show. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. For Beer and Sports, talking a whole lot more. Brought to you by SeatGeek. Go to bellyupsports.com for the best of sports articles and podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel or wherever it is you get your podcast. Let's get in.